Lelis Navarrete. I've also been a bird guide in South America for 30 years. Truly, most people think he's one of the top 3 field guides in the world. I've heard that from many world bird watchers. Ellis led a scouting expedition with 4 other bird guides into Colombia in 2009. For about the next 3 years, we ran about 8 tours a year. We currently run about 3 or 4 tours a year, including this year. We have 1, 2, 3. We have 4 tours scheduled for this year, and only one of them has room left. Wells is recognized one of the top birding guides in all of South America with 3 decades of experience. He leads tours in Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Brazil. He has led well over 300 field trips in South America. His field skills are legendary, with the ability to recognize by vocalization some 2,400 South American bird species, and his ability to sort out nearly 8,000 bird vocalizations. It truly amazes me. And he's got great ears. He can hear birds from a long way away. He's the author of 2 field guides, the Field Book of the Birds of Ecuador, and the Field Guide to the Galapagos Islands. And I think he's working on another field guide on flycatchers, but that's a story for another day. And one of the coolest things he's done, lots of things, let Ellis, together with Robert Ridgely, discover the Hokotoko antpit at a new bird to science in 1997. So a long list of birding accomplishments. With no further ado, I will let Lelis take over and share some stories about birding in Colombia.
Hello, everyone. Once again, thanks for your time. Thanks for attending this short presentation on Colombia. Colombia, it's certainly the first country in the world in terms of number of species. They have nearly, it's almost 2,000 species. They're getting close with a new taxonomy, new splittings. That number is getting very close. The actual number is 1941 species for the country, so they're number 1 in terms of the numbers of species on the world. It's a pretty good sized country. It's almost twice the size of the states of Texas. And scattered all over the country, they have 83 endemic species. And our goal in our tours, it's obviously trying to see as many endemic species as possible. Colombia is a big country, so we try to design a couple of tours that give us the better chances of having as many endemics to Colombia as possible. And while we do that, we also try to see most of the avifauna, a great number of the avifauna in Colombia. So in the first, I want to talk in 2 different sections. Here in the left side of the screen, you see our main tour, which is basically concentrated in the area that belongs to the Cauca River Valley and the Magdalena River Valley. These are 2 rivers that run basically, one runs towards the Pacific Ocean and the other one runs over the Atlantic. So by changing the mountain ranges, and we have species that are isolated, populations that are isolated from both. And in one very popular tour also is the Santa Marta endemics. There is a mountain range over this section here that also holds a whole bunch of endemic species. Actually, the bigger number of endemic species are located in one single spot in Santa Marta. There are 26. So let's say 21 there, but the more recent splits are taking the number even up higher. So the first tour in this section, normally we always end up with a number close to 500 species seen by the participants, and close to 26 of endemic species for Colombia. So now I'm gonna hit a highlight of the route. It comprehends around 600 miles driving distance in 13 days. So I'm gonna try a few of the most important sites and some of the endemics that we can see. Cali, there's this cloud forest, easy reachable from the town. It's only 18 kilometers, and the name of the site is that. The area is mainly road birding, and one of the goals species we go for, it's the multicolored tanager, really small tanager of a unique genus only found in the Andes. So here we have a male and a young male together on a branch. These guys are coming to a feeder, so they can be, in previous times we had to go hunt in the forest for them. Now they come to a feeding station. You take a drink and wait for them to come. There are other species that can see on the forest, and also the feeders are like this much more common scarf tanager. They also have hummingbird feeders. So some of these species can be also seen in Ecuador, like the purple-throated woodstar. Hey, what happened here? Yeah. So from I don't know if you want to make a short break there, or we jump to the next destination. One of the areas, the cloud forest towards the western range of the western mountain range in the Andes in Colombia, western slope, it's Montezuma. This is in the Tatama National Park. It's a family-run outfit or lodge where we can have this is a endemic rich habitat. So one of them is this gaudy male golden ring tanager. You have the lady of the same species. Both are quite striking. We also have this endemic chestnut-bellied flower piercer. Very small, restricted range, because it lives in the tree-line habitat in some of the mountains in north and in central Colombia only. As well, we have species that are shared only with the northern Ecuador, like the toucan barbet. Looks like a little child was asked the task of painting it. Hummingbirds like Varrotel sylph, or tiny and gaudy yellow-colored Chlorophonia and the canopy. This is the photo of the clapwing mannequin. This mannequin produces a sound with these white sections here I'm highlighting on the wing. When they bow, they rise up the wings and rough this club-shaped feather against each other, and they produce a metallic sound. So it's one of the few birds that produces a sound or a song without the use of the syringe. I don't know, Charles, if you want to have a short break before the next place.
Ellis, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I tried to slow you down, and my my tablet was having connections issues. But good. So yeah, any questions out there from people? You can either text them in or just unmute and ask your question and then mute up again. Any questions at all? So I'll start with a couple. So kicking back to kilometer 18, we get like a late afternoon there when it cools off a little bit, and then a full morning, right?
That's correct. We only spend pretty much 12 hours of birding, normally one afternoon and one morning. But we don't require much more because, as I said, the main goal is the multicolored tanager, such a wonderful, cool looking bird, and so easy to be seen. The bird is found in other places, but Kilometer 18 is probably the best place in Colombia to see it because, just wait for them and they come to the feeders. People can take videos, photos, and watch it in length, as much as you want.
Yeah. Question we got in from the crowd was the destination or the name of the first destination. And it does have that incredibly awesome name of Kilometer 18. And the habitat there is rainforest, right?
Yeah, it's a type of it's a the scientific term will be mountain forest. It's a lower mountain forest, but it's, generally speaking, we say it's a type of cloud forest. Due the moisture that comes from the Pacific Ocean pushes the clouds over the side, creating this mossy habitat. So it's a forest covered with moss. At times could be foggy. So it's moist, not wet, and usually funny because they never gave it a nice name. The name is Kilometer 18, and that is where the side road that takes you to the forest starts along a highway. 0 is starting in Cali, 18 kilometers you drive to the side, drive away into the second type of road, or secondary road, and then you are in the forest there. Yeah, it's kind of an unusual name. The road goes to the Pacific Ocean to a port in Colombia that is used for export import in the country.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start to call it Kilometer 18 Cloud Forest in the future. I don't know. I struggled with that name for 12 years. And there's now a way to go further down that road or something, right?
Oh yes, it's doable. There's actually been a couple places we at times go birding there. It all depends on timing, on what we've seen, and what is being reported lately. From once you get over the pass, you start descending into dry valleys. It's a dry valley. It has some of the desert type habitat, and so there's cacti, there's shrub vegetation. Yes, and at times there are species that better seen in that kind of habitat than in Kilometer 18. At times they show up in the dry season. They show up also in Kilometer 18, but they can be seen better down below.
Right. So couple general tour questions, which we can take now. Some we'll take at the end. What's sort of the range of altitude on this tour?
In general, the tour start, we have elevation that goes almost close to sea level. Let's say 80 meters above sea level, 100 meters above sea level. And it goes above tree line in places that it goes to 3,800 meters above sea level.
Yeah, so
some of the sites.
The colder Paramo parts, how cold is the cold?
Say it again, sorry?
Oh, somebody else, it said looks cold, be prepared for hot and very cold in the Paramo. How many hours do you really spend birding in the Paramo, and how cold does it really get?
Yeah, well, most of the birding is actually in warmer type of habitats.
That's usually what?
I'll say 60% of the time, maybe even 70% of the time, we're spending warmer, more tropical habitats. Yeah, and temperature wise, I always run in Celsius, but it's uh,
in Celsius.
oh yeah, 20, high 20s, low 30s when in the tropical, more warmer areas. And it could go, 12 Celsius, 9 Celsius in the coldest spots towards the upper part. Like in the place where we look for Buffy helmet crest, it's Paramo and it's close to a snow-capped volcano. So it could be pretty cold. It all depends on weather conditions because it's overcast and it could be quite cold. If we add to it wind factor, then it could be much colder. So it all depends. It varies. Even in the highlands, when it's clear sky and no wind, you can be walking around at close to 4,000 meters of elevation with shorts and t-shirt because it's pleasant actually, especially in the middle of the day, of course.
Great. We've had a lot more questions come in. I'm going to move on to the next part. Most of these are general questions, and I'll sprinkle them out the presentation as we go forward. But this next question is great. What's the name of the special birds in the Rio Blanco area?
Yeah. Rio Blanco, it's a preserve that was created by the city of Manizales. So the forest itself is the watershed for the city of Manizales. It protects the forest that provides water. The administration of the forest, it's run by the company who runs the water supply, the potable water supply for the city of Manizales. And some of the, I believe that one of the group is a group of species that belong to the same family, are which Rio Blanco is famous for, is because they developed time ago a series of feeding stations for emperas. So these are species that are skulkers that dwell in the forest ground. They're very secretive and cryptic, and they are walking on a very dense vegetation as the one you see away from the road. It's hard to see what is on the ground in these guys, in this type of forest. This guy here on the left, it's one of the local guys, and the bucket he's got in his right hand here, it's some dirt, and in it there are earthworms. That's what he's feeding the emperas in the different stations. So we take one of the mornings a tour that goes from one spot to the other, look for the emperas, and while doing that, in between the terms from station 1 to station 2 or A to B, we also go birding our way into. So going to the specialty, this is also a cloud forest, a little higher than Kilometer 18. It's actually about the same elevation. Montezuma, the previous site, also shows some of the same elevation habitat in here with different species. One of the hummingbirds we always see in Rio Blanco is this Chocó daggerbill. In the past, it used to be called the wedgebill hummingbird. Now, this bird is actually always in the gardens, in the entrance gate of Rio Blanco in the lower part, which is the only thing we gotta do to see it is just wait for it in the proper flowers at the right time, and it'll show up. What is interesting on this bird is this is one of the very few parasitic species of hummingbirds. These guys do not pollinate flowers. They use this wedge-shaped bill to actually pierce the flowers by the base, not using the normal entrance way for other hummingbirds or insects to get the nectar. These guys actually poke a hole in the flower and they steal the nectar without actually pollinating the species of plants they are visiting. So they, in a sense, they are pirates. So here's one of the emperas we see at one of the stations. Every every feeding station of Antpittas, it's got its own particular species visiting. They don't want to have 2 or 3 of these Antpittas in the feeding station at the same time, because some of them are bigger or more aggressive, and they can run away the other species that could show up. So they try to just educate to have one particular species, normally a pair or a small family group, pair with their offspring, either a chick or 2 chicks that come to a particular feeding station. So in this case, it's a bicolor Antpitta. This is in a different station. This is a brown banded Antpitta. This is one of the endemic species of Colombia as well. All of these species, at times, you can see them almost in reach to your hand. I mean, you can almost just stretch your hand. At times, the birds are just coming right behind the group while we're waiting for them. And you could see them just at the length of the reach of an arm. In this case, we have a chestnut-neck Antpitta. This bird is collecting pieces of earthworms from the station after feeding itself. It's taking pieces of earthworms for either the nest or awaiting nearby chick. This is one of the small and tiny of the Antpittas. This is a different genus, the Grallaricula. These are about the size of, like this, the size of a, including leg and bill, the size of a head of a person, kind of pretty small. The other ones are the bigger ones. This is a slate crown Antpitta. And the feeding stations, the Rio Blanco side is it's got a wonderful cloud forest. It's also easy. The access to the forest is pretty nice because it's pretty much road birding. What we do when we visit this site, other than that, walking from one station to another one on this wonderful road, we can also drive to the upper part along this road when it gets steeper and have the car taking us up there. Once we get to the particular side, we like to start walking our way down. So it's actually easy birding and wonderful because of the number of species we see and the special type of birds that we can find in Rio Blanco.
Great. Any questions about the Rio Blanco Reserve? And we usually get there 2 mornings, right?
Yes, we normally stay there. Yeah, we stay there 2 nights, so that allow us to have a full day and a 1 full morning in Rio Blanco. We do that because one of the mornings we dedicate our time to the feeding stations, and the second morning we do some of more birding and leisure, just walking along, looking for the bird flocks and the particular species that we like to see from the forest in there. Yeah.
Somebody asked me about typical start times on our tours, and to me, see if I have this right. Like, we always got to get in breakfasts. We usually like to get to the birding site right as the sun comes up, plus maybe 15 minutes. Is that about right?
Yes. We normally have breakfast at around 5:30 in the mornings. And, in Rio Blanco, when things have changed a little bit throughout pandemic times, but the Rio Blanco's got a lodge. So you step outside of the lodge and you are already looking at the forest. So yeah, we try to have breakfast around 5:30, and at 6, the sun is rising, light is coming through the forest, and we start our morning at about a time. Because one of the great things with starting really early is that birds are quite vocal. They have these dawn calls in the early morning, even pre-dawn, they start singing, and you can locate where they are. Later in the day, you go to the particular site where you heard them vocalizing and search for them. It's much easier, just go at random, walking, looking for them. So if you arrive in the early mornings, that provides you an idea of where the birds are and what are the species singing. You can go look for them.
That's actually something
We normally have a break in the middle of the day. You know, we either box lunch or lunch. When we are in Rio Blanco, we are at the lodge. So we have a break in the middle of the day. People, we have a sitting lunch. People can relax. And later in the afternoon, we go for, again, a couple hours, a short exploration nearby. Or we can take a short drive. It all depends on what we need to see and what we're looking for.
Yeah, and so I just want to make sure I heard that answer. It's pretty interesting to me. So when you're out in the morning birding, you're not only getting on bird then, but you're plotting for birding in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I learned. And then truly the key to getting up in the morning is getting supper and getting to bed on time. So we typically like to get to a lodge between 5 and 6, get supper down, view the bird checklist, review the next day, try to get people to bed by 8 so we can get up the next day without running everybody into the ground. Is that about right?
Yeah. Hey, Charles, you need to speak closer to your microphone. Your voice is faded.
Okay.
I'm having troubles to hearing you.
Okay.
It's coming, but not strong.
Okay, let me see. I've got one more here. Just a comment on your gray hair. That's really funny. I think that's it. I think we can
Charles?
Yeah, shoot. No, it's Dave. Oh,
Yep.
Dave.
Dave Cook. Since Lelis brought up meals, I've got a question that relates to the food. I'm a vegetarian, Lelis, and I've birded both in Ecuador and Colombia. And Ecuador lodges seem very attuned to having really good meals for vegetarians. And when I was in Colombia in 2014, I was in lodges that you've been showing us. And they didn't really have much of an idea about how to have meals that were not just rice and vegetables or rice and beans. Has that situation changed for vegetarians in the lodges you've been talking about?
Yeah, it's been changing a little bit. Not as much as we would like to. For instance, the owners of Montezuma, they are vegetarians by themselves. So when we stay the 2 nights in Montezuma, the second site I talk about, they do prepare vegetarian food for themselves. So they really know to prepare a whole bunch of variety of stuff for the meals. And I guess a couple of them are even vegan. So they really know. Yeah, in some of their sites, we do share the information that we have from our people. I mean, people participating on our tours in terms of food requirements and special diets and allergies. And we even have gone far to the fact to try to tell them what they could prepare. One of the things is when you have people that are not used to having the number of clients with that particular requirement, they don't develop the expertise to prepare that type of food. But this is changing. I mean, the more people that go visit those sites, the knowledge of catering that type of kind of eating goes into the kitchen on the places we're staying. Yeah. So at times there are areas that it's not as easy, but some of the lodges that we're staying, they are much more attuned to it. The hotels in cities, they normally provide 1, 2, 3 choices for vegetarian. It's not they're not as extensive as some of the lodges could be, but the lodges have improved a lot in that aspect. Yeah.
But it ain't Ecuador, baby.
Well, you compare Colombia and Ecuador in terms of catering for vegan people and vegetarian people. I think we can rank them, 1 to 10. Say Ecuador in our birding tours could go up to 9. Colombia, I'll say 7.
That's a fair assessment, my friend. And truly, one thing that you will always learn about Lelis Navarrete is he is a very straightforward guy, and he cuts to the chase pretty effectively. Um, with no further ado, let's hear about Bella Vista Reserve in Victoria.
Yeah. So Bella Vista, the 2 previous places we talk about, they have the 3 other places. They actually, a couple more we go visit as well, but I didn't mention them because of the stand of the presentation. Those previous sites are influenced by the Cauca. Now we have come across, when past the Central Andes, we are descending into the Magdalena River. And this is a wonderful flatland valley. You can see the mountains in the distance. We are in the foothills of the Magdalena River here, and we're visiting the small town of Victoria. So this small town down below here, I'm circling around, it's Victoria. And that's where we're staying. The picture is taken from the reserve itself. It's a reserve that belongs to the city, the municipality, and we go spend there again 1 full day, 1 afternoon, and 1 full morning. So this is more of a kind of a foothill forest. So it's in a sense, this is a type of rainforest actually. Oh, it's got several of endemic species can be seen in Bella Vista. Here we have the Colombian chachalaca. This is not a bird species, but one of the animals protected also in for this reserve is the cotton top tamarin, the really dowdy, odd-looking, small-sized monkey that roams the forest in Bella Vista. So even though it is a birding tour, this is one of the really cool mammals we have a chance to see there. Once you see it, you know why. Besides looking for birds, we also try to find them, and they're spectacular looking. So in Bella Vista, I also have this velvet-fronted euphonia. It's one of the endemic species of the Magdalena River, Magdalena Valley. We have the white-mantled barbet, one of the endemics of Colombia. It's actually quite reliable for the site. Times requires some searching, but I don't think we ever miss it so far. One of the skulkers that is fairly common, actually, much more commonly heard than seen, the Surian tanager. We always manage to. This picture was taken through the scope after the group had been seeing the bird. So this time we managed to have the bird watching some game with the bird sound. After all people saw it, I was able to jump in the scope and take this picture with my cell phone. This is a male, also endemic species to Colombia. Beautiful woodpecker. This is a split, recent split, also endemic for Colombia. Bella Vista is one of the better sites to find the species as well. So the birding on Bella Vista is really interesting. It's pretty much even terrain, because since we are in the lower part of a huge valley, we are on top of a hill, which has got a flat area, and in that flat area is a big portion of the forest protected by Bella Vista Reserve, and there is a road that cuts through it. And so we just go road birding through forest along a road. So it makes it much easier than on a trail. And I don't know, after we crossed the Magdalena River, we started climbing up towards the Bogota Plateau. We visit one side in the way. La Vega, a small town in the foothills, has a stage and for more endemics as well there. But we ended up always in the Bogota marshes, where in the early mornings we can look for.
Hey, can we just stop for
Bogota.
reference before we wrap up on Bogota?
Yeah.
We're doing great on time, and I know you want to spend more time on Marta. Any questions out there, folks? I did have a question from a while ago, which was like the best season to go birding in Colombia, both in terms of birding, weather, rainy seasons. And I know the answer, but I'll let you answer it.
Yeah, well, Colombia has got birding is good year round. Now what we certainly want to avoid is the top of the rainy season. When the rains are due throughout all the country, that could impede the birding because it's hard to be wet all the time. But again, there's two rainy seasons in Colombia, and if we avoid those the rainy season when it gets into when it's in the peak of the rainfall, then we are okay. And if we are slightly before or after the rainy seasons, some rain is actually needed. It's important. Birds are much more active when there's some rain than when there is none. When you go to some habitats and it's completely dry, you could be birding nicely for a couple hours between 6 to 8, maximum to 9. Then the sun comes up, it gets really hot, there's no clouds, and the forest just get quiet. Birds don't like it. So they're used to live in moist habitats or wet habitats, and it requires some rain to come to work to keep the forest healthy. So one of the particular ones we try to avoid is June, July. Particularly July could be, especially in the Central Valley, in the eastern flanks of the Andes, including the Eastern Cordillera, Bogota. It could be quite rainy those times. That's one of the times we try to avoid. We also try to avoid December and January, especially the first part of January, because of the amount of rain that it could happen. The other months, close to the ones I just mentioned, before and after it could rain, but still you can always work around it. And as I said before, rain is needed. If you go in the top, the dry season, you might be surprised of how little bird activity you see throughout the day. So there is something also to think on. Being dry could be nice, but being dry could also means that there will be less birds to be seen, less birds singing too. But birding is good year round, and we normally try to run our tours in the best times that we have for the different sites. And now we have 3 different ranges, 2 oceans, and for instance, the weather patterns could be totally different, or what is influenced by the Atlantic Ocean in Santa Marta, or as compared to what is the influence of the Tatamá and Kilometer 18 by Cali, or Rio Blanco by the Cauca River, which is influenced by the Pacific Ocean. So that's why we always try to organize our tours in the better conditions, depending on the weather, because of the particular site. Because Colombia is a big country, and they have 3 mountain ranges. They have 2 oceans influencing the weather. They also have the influence of the Amazon. So need to be thoughtful about where we're going and when. But we have already nailed down. You have to ask, particularly on what tour you are interested and at what time you think that you would like to go, and we tell you we will tell you which time will be the best to go to a particular site.
All righty. Got another question there from one of my favorite mathematicians, which we have a lot of mathematicians, but I will address that later in the thing. Let's take on Bogota marshes.
Yeah, no, normally Bogota is one of the, it's the final day of our main tour, starting in Cali and finishing in Bogota. And we also use it as a transition day for the times when we go visit the Santa Marta Mountains before getting on a plane and flying from Santa Marta, from Bogota, which is somewhere down here, way below, out of the screen actually. We are flying to the city of Santa Marta to start our tour visiting the Santa Marta region. So yeah, one of the goals, we also go in the early mornings of the last day of the tour, of the main tour, as well as the first day of the extension. So either you take the extension or not, you will be seeing this I think we'll never miss it either. The Bogota Rail, one of the endemics of these marshes in the outskirts of the city of Bogota. There's also a handful of other species that can be seen in the marshes, but we spent a couple of hours before we gotta go back to the airport to catch our international flights or our flight towards Santa Marta. So I don't know, you wanna stop there or
I think
jump into Santa Marta?
Jump to St. Anna Marta, unless anybody's got anything related to Bogota area birding, which is really usually gets those endemics in a couple hours of birding at Bogota marshes, right?
Yeah.
Not a lot of birding, but it's two critical endemics. And I plan enough trips with Lelis in Bogota. It is better at the end of the tour because you can do the birding and then get on a plane, versus if you do it at the start of the tour, you get stuck in Bogota traffic, which is worth avoiding. And there you go. Any other good questions out there, folks? There's another question, but I'll save it to the end of St. Anna Marta, just for time management reasons. Okay, shoot, my friend.
Right. So once we fly to Santa Marta is a touristic town settled right by the Caribbean Ocean, and we normally fly to Santa Marta. There are airports in Cartagena, Barranquilla, and we can the mountains can be accessed by any of these three airports. Of course, Santa Marta Airport is the closest. I'm gonna explain a bit of what we do in the Santa Marta tour itself, because we do it as an extension. When we do it as an extension, we normally just start climbing up into the mountains. This lighter area here is the top of the Santa Marta mountain ranges, and we spend one night in the hills, 2-3 nights in the upper area, visiting some of the, the higher you go, the more endemics there are, because this mountain range is like an island or a mountain surrounded by dry forest. So when we do the extension, we visit some of the dry forest at the bottom, start climbing up, then spend a couple days couple nights in the upper part, then descend again to finish the extension. When we do it as a regular tour, we spend more time in the lowlands as well. And one of the things we do is we go visit some of these this peninsula that jets out from Colombia. Here we have this section here is already Venezuela. This road around here, this pretty much around here, is the border, the border between Colombia and Venezuela on the right. So in regular tour in the Santa Marta region, we go visit some of these dry forests, or we can say dry scrub. There are patches of forest as well that are dry with different, of course, vegetation and wildlife, including the birds. Then closer to this section here, there's influence of the humidity of the Santa Marta Mountains, and this creates some lowland rainforest that we also visit. Besides that, visiting the mountains itself, we also visit some of the mangrove forests closer to the city of Barranquilla, where there's also one hummingbird species to be seen inside the mangrove. So we're gonna just now jump into some of the species that we look for while we visit Santa Marta. So we go pretty much from sea level to around 2,300, 2,400 meters of elevation above sea level. One of the things I really love much from the visit to Santa Marta, besides the birding, is the outstanding views that you can have from the lodge. This picture is taken from the lodge, where we stay a couple nights, sometimes 3 nights. Down below here, you can see the sun setting. This light area on the left side here is the Magdalena River estuary, feeding into the Atlantic Ocean here on the right. This section around here is the road that connects Santa Marta region with Barranquilla on the distance. So this is a site that we normally enjoy all the afternoons when we ended up our birding from the mountains in Santa Marta. So we have, it's interesting, but most of the endemics are 22, depending on taxonomy, you can say more, 26, 25. Most of the endemics have the name of the mountain. When you ask about what is that hummingbird, well, it's the Santa Marta something. In this case, the Santa Marta woodstar. Blossom crown, one another hummingbird seen in towards the lower part of the cloud forest in the mountains, is the Santa Marta blossom crown. In this case, this is a female. These are birds that they are known where they hang around normally. We know the flowers, so we just go to the particular sites, wait for them to come visit the flowers. There are species that are not visiting hummingbird feeders so far. Okay, so in this case, we have the Santa Marta mountain tanager, one of the gaudy birds from the upper part. And in this, to go to see this hummingbirds, the ones I mentioned before, we sort of drive to a slightly lower elevation from the lodge. To see this mountain tanager, we have to go up higher to the more temperate forest up above the lodge, where we also look for the Santa Marta parakeet. This is one of the few hummingbirds that doesn't have the name of Santa Marta, even though it's an endemic. This one, it's been lately, and at times it's showing up in at the feeders by the lodge, the black thornbill. And so Santa Marta's got over 21 endemic species. Most of them can be seen within the few days we take the tour up to the mountains. There are 2 species that I was talking to some of my friends before the presentation, the Santa Marta wren and the Santa Marta helmet crest. They are only in the paramo habitat, which is not which doesn't have access from the north side that we're visiting along the road. To see these 2 other endemics that I just mentioned, the wren and the helmet crest, it requires an expedition that I have never done, and I don't know if I ever will do it. But yeah, you gotta go from the south side on a car, on a mule back, or the horseback riding, and then hiking up to the paramo on an expedition of several days to look for them. So most of the Santa Marta endemics are accessible, and we ended up seeing most of them in this tour. So I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if you got questions. I'm gonna leave some of the I
I'll start with some
answer
easy
questions. I leave
ones
some of
that
the
I related
videos.
to. So one question was,
Uh,
is the lodge in Santa Marta El Dorado? And so it is. Um, and then a question about the sort of birding season and the migration influence. Um, Actually, our migrants from the U.S. come down there. What time do they arrive? Like October, November, and then they leave February, March.
yeah, the October, November is when they start arriving. November is actually a great month for them, especially around the Santa Marta Mountains. Um, they many of the warblers can be seen both from the lower part and starting on sea level up to the cloud forest in Santa Marta Mountains. So November is actually a good time to see some of the migrants arriving, and towards February, March is when they start heading back. Or, they're leaving Colombia and heading north.
Yeah. Now, what about migration within species that reside in South America and the Americas? There's just a little movement, or there's none, or is it just sort of mountaintop to valley, or what's that
You're
look
talking about the resident species of the South
like?
American,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Charles.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, well, in terms of migration, there's uh, there's a phenomenon known as the austral migration. We have migration that goes from certain species do migrate from Patagonia um, towards the tropical zones in South America, and that includes some raptors like the white-throated hawk. We have a population of the American swallowtail kite that also migrates from Patagonia to uh, near the equator by Ecuador, Colombia, and Brazil. There are some species that also have some sort of local migration, and that depends on on weather patterns. There are species that migrate from the dry valleys of Peru and Bolivia to some wetter habitats, both in Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador as well. But those are things that we are just learning. I mean, this local migration in terms of weather conditions in South America is something that's been recently researched in the last 10 years. So it's not as well, it's not as known, or it's not known as well as the northern migration that have been studied for much longer times.
Great.
Uh-huh.
And this is an easy question, which is, where does the tour fly in and out of? So the tour does start in Cali, and there are direct flights from the United States. About 80% of our clients fly directly to Cali. About 20% fly to Bogota first, and then to Cali. And then Santa Marta requires a flight in and out of Santa Marta or Barranquilla. All that sort of loops back to Bogota. And so you ultimately sort of need an international flight into Cali out of Bogota for most people. And some people just do Bogota round trip. I'm going to have a couple administrative things. Um, just one about the PIB and 2 minutes. We do keep our group sizes small, like most tours run at 6 to 8 people. Um, we always use premier local bird guides like Lelis Navarrete. Um, and because we're not flying guides from around the world to lead the tours, our prices usually are 20-30% less than our competitors. And we always save an acre for bird conservation for every booking. Um, we do have 2 or 3 spaces left on our November 4 Colombia tour. December is sold out. August is sold out. And you can call me anytime, Charles Thornton Colby at 720-320-1974. And if we've mentioned your name today, and I can think of just once, and the client mentioned their names, if you want that edited out, please let us know. That is a Zoom requirement. I see Zoom has put some other wraparounds on the new model here, so that's good. But feel free to write us at service@pibird.com, and we'll get you out of the video, which will be shared on YouTube and on our website.